Well, government facing a potential lawsuit over its asylum policy. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, June 19. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. Two Venezuelan asylum seekers in Trinidad and Tobago are threatening to sue the government over what they say is the failure to make its policy for refugee transparent. Lawyers representing Carlos Jose Perez Arias and Maria Carolina Olivares Sahad sent a pre-action protocol letter to National Security Minister Edmund Dillon and Acting Chief Immigration Officer Charmaine Gandhi Andrews on the matter on Monday. Venezuelans trying to escape hardship in their country have been flocking to the Twin Island Republic. 82 of them were earlier repatriated by the government in April, and one of the lawyers for the two Venezuelans who are now threatening a lawsuit said the letter to the National Security Minister and Acting Chief Immigration Officer stemmed from his client's concerns about the government's role in that repatriation exercise and conflicting and evasive statements from officials over whether some of those who were sent back home were registered asylum seekers. The attorney said his clients are fearful that Trinidad and Tobago has and/or intends to deny and/or frustrate and/or undermine their legitimate expectations as set out in the policy. In the letter, Allah requested that Dillon and Gandhi Andrews give written undertakings that his clients would not be deported while the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees was mulling over the final decision on their refugee status. He is also seeking assurances that the government would not impose penalties against his clients for illegal entry until the determination of their applications and would only consider detention as a last resort. Allah said that if Dillon and Gandhi Andrews fail to respond to the letter within 14 days, a lawsuit will be filed on his client's behalf, and consideration would also be given to converting the claim into a class action lawsuit to include all other asylum seekers in the Twin Island Republic. Guyana intends to capitalize on Venezuela's decision not to participate in proceedings at the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, to settle their long-standing border dispute. It says it intends to invoke the statute that enables the court to make a judgment when one party opts out. Under Article 53 of the statute of the court, whenever one of the parties do not appear before the court or fails to defend its case, the other party may call upon the court to decide in favor of its claim. And Guyana's Ministry of Foreign Affairs disclosed in a statement that the government intends to do just that. This follows an announcement by Venezuela on Monday that it will not participate in the court case. The Guyana government says it's fully committed to the rule of law in international relations, including the peaceful resolution of disputes in conformity with international law. And it trusts that the ICJ, which is the judicial organ of the United Nations, will resolve the controversy with Venezuela in accordance with the law in a manner that is fair and equitable. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that it hopes, and I quote, "In due course, Venezuela will reconsider its position and decide to appear in court and defend its case. The court's rules allow for that. At the same time, if Venezuela persists in its refusal to participate, the rules provide for the court to proceed after a full hearing of the case to a final judgment that is legally binding on both the participating and non-participating parties." End of quote. When the Secretary General of the United Nations referred the dispute to the ICJ, Guyana agreed with going that route. Initially, Venezuela did not. Then it said it would participate in the process. Then on Monday, changed its tune again, saying that the ICJ lacks jurisdiction in the matter and reiterates its position that it wants diplomatic channels to be reopened to settle the dispute. Two Bermudan men have been arrested on terrorism-related charges in Britain. Confirmation has come from police in the United Kingdom and Bermuda. The Bermuda Police Service confirmed the two, who have been living in Britain for a significant period of time, were arrested after UK authorities were alerted to a residence in Whitfield, that's Whitefield Bury, Greater Manchester, earlier this month. The Greater Manchester Police reported that one of the men, 24-year-old Hisham Mohammed, was charged with preparing for acts of terrorism. The other man, a 23-year-old Faisal Abu Ahmad, was charged with failing to notify the authorities. They were remanded in custody when they appeared before the Westminster Magistrates Court and they are scheduled to appear for a preliminary hearing at the Old Bailey in London on Friday next week. Police launched an investigation on June 4th after reports that suspicious items had been found in an apartment the two had been staying at. Weapons and other combat equipment, along with extremist materials supporting ISIS, were allegedly found at the home. The Bermuda Police Service says it is liaising with UK authorities and conducting local inquiries, but it said that so far there is no information that raises similar concerns locally. Barbados has abolished the visa requirement for Haitian nationals wanting to enter the country. Home Affairs Minister Edmund Hinkson says there should have been no need for a visa in the first place, since Haiti is a member of CARICOM and its nationals should be able to travel through the region freely.
If Haiti is a member of CARICOM and the Treaty of CHAKA speaks towards non-discrimination and equal treatment, how can you have put on visa requirements on Haitians? I mean, why do we do this to our own people? People of similar color to us. Just because they're Haitians? It was absolutely contrary to the Treaty of CHAKA, to the written word and to the spirit of it. So like I said on Saturday when I heard that, I must admit I was shocked.
Hinkson told online paper Barbados today that his ministry is in the process of preparing a white paper on immigration with a view to deepening the integration movement and Barbados' relationship with the rest of the region.
Yeah, we're going to look clearly at reforming the immigration legislation of Barbados as well as the policies of it. Clearly, our Immigration Act is outdated. I mean, I just can give you examples. In the schedule to the Immigration Act, it still speaks about imbeciles and mentally and physically handicapped persons being prohibited from coming into Barbados. Clearly, we have to look at reform of the Act. So, yeah, we're going to look at that. We've been mandated to look at that. I mean, you would have heard Prime Minister Gonzalez say, a week ago, I think he was reported in the press 2 weekends ago that Barbados and Trinidad are the worst culprits in terms of offending, the Treaty of CHAKA in terms of how we treat the CARICOM nationals.
Staying in Bridgetown, President of the Barbados Agriculture Society, James Paul, is concerned that the recently announced tax on water and sanitation could hurt farmers. In a mini-budget presentation last week, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Mia Mottley told legislators that beginning August 1st, there will be a 50% garbage and sewage contribution levy on the water bills of commercial premises. Paul says this levy will be detrimental to small farmers.
In poultry processing, in the area of, for instance, pigs, pig processing, water is a much used ingredient. Even in terms of vegetable operations for those farms, or especially we have homegrown gardens, where there are farmers in Barbados who do not have the benefit, especially vegetable farmers, of water coming from BADMC sources. In other words, you have to use the normal water coming from the BWA. It means that the cost of water for those agricultural enterprises will increase by a dramatic 50%.
The BAS president is calling for a meeting with the minister responsible for water and sanitation in an attempt to work out a special exemption.
Most agricultural producers in Barbados have to compete with cheaper subsidized products being imported from abroad. And we believe that we need to address this issue, because talking to the persons in the processing plants, certainly what it would mean is that they could be forcing an increase in the price of poultry as a result of the increase in the price of the water. While some may say that we can actually engage in some water harvesting, we cannot use water that is collected say just like that. We cannot give them to animals that are for human consumption just like that.
And still to come in Caribbean Newsline, Sagazam Seaweed forces the temporary closure of a hotel in Antigua. The details of that story and more when we return.
Follow your heart to the 22nd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival from June 27 to July 1st, 2018. Featuring Kester Band, Sizzler Laundry, Small Axe Band, Nyla Blackman, and Betty Wack. Also, Patti LaBelle, Dijon, New Vibes International, Rhythm of the Beat, and Wayne Wonder. Fight, August ALSINA, Aishona, Byron Messiah, Dasha, CHAKA, DEMUS, and PLIERS, and Miss Lauren Hill. Save the date and book now for the 22nd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
Welcome back. One Antiguan hotel has announced that it is temporarily closing its doors because of the order from rotten Sagazam seaweed on its beachfront. The St. James Club announced on Monday that it will be closed for business from July 1st to October 1st, when it's hoped the seaweed would have been removed and the foul odor gone. This is the second time in 2 years the hotel has been forced to take similar action. We get more in this report from ABS Television.
The St. James Club will be closed from the beginning of next month to the 1st of October. Chairman of the Antigua Hotels and the Tourist Association, Alex DeBrito, says he was amazed that the resort was able to stay open for so long, given the seaweed nuisance.
I'm even surprised they're being open for the last week or two. It's a terrific effort from the staff and the management to try to fight that situation, but it's very difficult to keep guests in that environment.
He says no other affected hotel has indicated plans to close so far. He says other resorts have been more successful in battling the invasion.
The other properties were affected. They've been able to clean the shores on a daily basis. I know that the veranda had some that day, and it was cleaned very fast. Pineapple the same.
The AHTA chairman says, however, hoteliers are not the only ones being affected by the seaweed. DeBrito says both residents and visitors have to deal with the strong smell in the vicinity of Hodges Bay. In 2011, St. James Club was forced to close because of the presence of Sagazam seaweed on its shores.
In Guyana, a new policy has been put in place to ensure teenage mothers have the opportunity to go back to school while receiving support at home and from their community. The policy manual was handed over on Monday by officials from the Ministry of Education and the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. First Lady Sandra Granger called on policymakers and educators to uphold and protect the rights of children and adolescent mothers who have suffered sexual abuse. We get the details in this HGP Nightly News report.
Government is hoping that this policy will also reduce the number of pregnancies among school-aged girls. while it's specifically geared towards providing adolescent mothers the opportunity to re-enter the school system to complete studies without interferences.
I have heard school officials acting as though these girls have an infectious disease, and if you put them in the schools, you will see this contagion of pregnancy. Somehow they always believe that if these girls are in schools while they are pregnant, the whole school will become contaminated, and it is not something that really happens.
First Lady Sandra Granger addressing the gathering at the launching of the National Policy for the Reintegration of Adolescent Mothers into the formal school system on Monday. The First Lady says that comprehensive health and family life education in Guyana's school system is a must, and this should begin at the nursery level.
And I know also that some teachers are reluctant to teach it because they believe that if you teach sex education, we will have this orgy in the schools, which doesn't happen anyway. It all ties into teaching them to be responsible about themselves and teaching them to respect themselves.
According to the First Lady, many adolescent mothers generally feel like outcasts, and this needs to be corrected. She says that when it comes to them receiving prenatal care, they must be exposed to friendly health facilities where staff are non-judgmental.
They understand the position, and one would hope that they see this as this person as a girl child needing their care and advice and some measure of protection. And those of us who are honest will know that that does not occur throughout our healthcare services system.
She added that adolescent fathers are not being forgotten. They will also be provided with training and counseling since they need to take up their responsibilities as fathers regardless of their ages.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, Sri Lanka's captain to miss the third test against West Indies. We'll tell you why when we return.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Keep a working flashlight and batteries available during the hurricane season.
Do you wish to combine a vacation with pure laughter? Then St. Martin is the place to be on June 22nd and 23rd for the 14th annual edition of its comedy festival, Laugh Till Belly Burst, with comedians from all over the world. Book hotel and show tickets until June 20th now at www.ltbbsxm.com.
Follow your heart to the 22nd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival from June 27 to July 1st, 2018. Featuring Kester Band, Singer Logi, Small Axe Band, Nyla Blackman, and Betty Wack. Also, Patti LaBelle, Dijon, New Vibes International, Rhythm of the Beat, and Wayne Wonder. Spice, August ALSINA, Aishona, Messiah, Dasha, CHAKA, DEMUS, and PLIERS, and Miss Lauren Hill. Save the date and book now for the 22nd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
Sri Lanka captain Dinesh Chandimal will not play in the day-night third test against the West Indies in Barbados this weekend. And that's because he has been suspended after being found guilty by the International Cricket Council of altering the condition of the ball during the just concluded second test in St. Lucia. In a press release issued on Tuesday, the ICC said Chandimal was given the maximum sentence for the offence, 2 suspension points and a fine of 100% of his match fee. 2 suspension points equate to a ban from 1 test or 2 ODIs or 2 T20 internationals, whichever comes first. The ICC chief executive David Richardson said he would be seeking to have stiffer sanctions imposed on those persons found guilty of similar offences. The ICC said Chandimal was presented with video evidence at Monday's hearing, which showed him taking a substance from his mouth and applying it via saliva to the ball. He had been charged under the article of the ICC Code of Conduct, which relates to changing the condition of the ball by unfair means. The Sri Lanka skipper had initially pleaded not guilty to the charge laid by match officials on Sunday's penultimate day of the second test at the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. Chandimal, along with the team's coach and manager, have also been charged with a level 3 offence, which relates to conduct that is contrary to the spirit of the game. The captain of the West Indies and Sri Lanka teams were pleased with their sides' performances on the final day of the second test, although neither of the teams came away with a win. The match ended in a stalemate on Monday after the West Indies slumped to 8 for 2 early on and were clinging on at 147 for 5 when bad light drove players from the field at 5:05 p.m. Sri Lanka captain Dinesh Chandimal gave his side credit for a good showing.
They have some really good bowlers, so I mean, under these conditions, it's always really difficult to score big runs. So I'm really happy where we played, but as a team, we have to improve more.
And from a bowling perspective, playing just one spinner and a different combination to what you're accustomed to, how would you assess that?
We all know Rangana is a legend, so we just thinking, I mean, we were just thinking there's a tactical movement, so that's why we played Akila instead of Rangana. And so I think he bowled really well, but the pitch doesn't help him.
And during the Windies innings, opener Craig Brathwaite remained resolute with an unbeaten 59 and was accompanied by captain Jason Holder on 15. Shea Hope made 39, but no other batsman passed 15 as Sri Lanka's team attacked made repeated inroads. Brathwaite's innings became especially important after partner Devon Smith and Kiran Powell perished in the 4th over of the innings. He promptly put his powers of concentration on display in a knock lasting 172 balls, 4.5 hours, and including 6 fours. Captain Jason Holder praised his side's effort.
In time.
No, I'm happy. You know, I think we played some reasonable cricket in this game. Probably not to our best. I felt the game in Trinidad, we were a lot more clinical with our performance. You know, I felt yesterday it was a tough day in the field, you know, and we weren't as consistent and disciplined as I thought we should have been. I guess that's in cricket as well. You know, Sri Lanka played well yesterday. Their batters, you know, deserve some credit. You know, we had a few no-ball issues and got a few wickets off our no-balls, which really hurt us. But all in all, I thought it was a really good effort.
Well, the rain is coming down.
Antigua and Barbuda's national football team's assistant head coach Derek Edwards and equipment coordinator Danny Benjamin are back at home 2 months after they were jailed in Jamaica on drug-related charges. Last Friday, Edwards and Benjamin walked out of the St. Andrew Parish Court free men after the court prosecutor could not find enough evidence to prove they were guilty of the crime. The men were arrested back in March at the Norman Manley International Airport following a football friendly between Jamaica and Antigua. Andy Liebert of ABS News tells us more.
There were hugs all around and scenes of relief and joy on the outside. Danny Benjamin and Derek Pretty Boy Edwards returning to the warm embraces of their loved ones. It was an extremely difficult ordeal for both men. For Benjamin, the worst thoughts possible came to his head, but he found strength in a friend and colleague whose faith guided them through.
Being in that cell, when we went up there, Shaka and Hannah went up there, I started to realize that how serious the matter is. And when we went into the cell, I said, Pretty Boy, I don't think I will ever manage at this, you know. The only thing that comes to my mind, boy, I better just take my life because they've been into the situation there, and then the situation that happened, and you know, and he strengthened my belief, and from then we go to strength every morning. He will come over and we have pray and talk and everything, you know.
Edwards, one of Antigua's most prolific strikers, has seen more than his fair share of challenges on the field, but nothing ever like this in real life. But number 4 has always been the ultimate team player.
For me, I did have a lot of faith, but for Danny, I was feeling a bit sad because I know Danny, but I didn't know his fate, and I know that for Danny, how he would hold up, and it was tough. I tell you, it was tough for him, and I think because of me, I think the Lord have me there to support him and to support him well.
Edwards has been a model player and an inspiration for many. His arrest has placed a scar against his name, and he feels that it is only fair that he is fully exonerated. And that's a matter that now rests with the Antigua and Barbuda Football Association.
And I just hope that, you know, a investigation take place into the whole matter, and the truth shall come out, because I don't really want it cast in a doubt for anybody to have a second guess that myself and Danny are in the whole thing together. So I hope, Mr. President, that you've done an investigation and in a timely manner, because I want all this shadow over my head and Danny's head to be out of the way.
And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Violence in schools, media hype or reality? That's the topic for discussion in the next UNICEF-sponsored Activate Talks right here on Carib Vision. Activate Talks is a global series by UNICEF designed to spark discussion on issues affecting children and youth. So join us at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, June 27th and find out about violence in schools. Media hype or reality? Violence in schools, media hype or reality? That's the topic for discussion in the next UNICEF-sponsored Activate Talks right here on Carib Vision. Activate Talks is a global series by UNICEF designed to spark discussion on issues affecting children and youth. So join us at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, June 27th and find out about violence in schools. Media hype or reality? Again, the major developments of this day: 2 Venezuelan asylum seekers in Trinidad and Tobago threatening to sue the government over its asylum policy. And in sport, Sri Lanka's captain suspended from playing in the 3rd test against West Indies after being found guilty of altering the condition of the ball during the 2nd test. Now that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to KanaNews.com. But for more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and subscribe to Carib Vision's YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and do have yourselves a good night.